Hello and welcome to another episode of Rico'S Rants. I'm your host, Rico New Georgia. Holy shit, guys. This is not me ranting about a movie. I just gotta tell you what the fuck happened tonight. This is probably one of the few best, honestly, one of the best nights of my fucking life. Um, I actually might get emotional. It's pretty fucking crazy. I felt like I was taken out on a fucking proper date tonight. It's pretty fucking crazy. Okay, so first things first. I am a big fan of Kevin Smith. I've talked about him before. I've done reviews for Chasing Amy. I did one of Clerks, but then the file got accidentally deleted, so that's long gone. I'll have to redo that again at some point. Um, so I'm a fan of Kevin Smith. I've been a fan of his work ever since I was 10 years old. My mother took me to see Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back in theaters, which means I was 10 years old. I had never seen any Kevin Smith films. I didn't know who he was at the time. And honestly, introducing it to me with Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was sort of the best way because Strike Back is kind of, in its own way, a kids movie. I mean, there's a lot of filthy languages, drug references, and sorry, I'm just pulling my lighter out. Drug references, lots of language, sexuality, blah blah blah. But it's kind of a kids movie in its own way. The fucking Mystery Machine shows up, and it's goofy and everything. I remember laughing so unbelievably fucking hard, and it made me, one, find something that I can gravitate towards, because this was like one of the first dirty movies I had really seen. That, I mean, my brother took me to see the South Park movie when that came out, and that was 2 years previously. So I'd seen R-rated movies. I grew up with a lot of filthy language. Clearly, if you've seen my shit, I have the worst mouth ever. But a lot of it came from Kevin Smith. The irony is, my mother was like, always like, "You're swearing too much. Stop swearing all the time." I'm like, you took me to see fucking Strike Back. This is your fault, kind of. So, I became a fan. I started researching his movies and started watching all his movies. Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma. I think I saw Dogma next. I sort of went backwards and around. I think I saw the last one I saw was Clerks, in terms of the original five that had been aired at that time. And then I just became obsessed with them, and I always wanted to. I just gravitated towards Kevin Smith. And my admiration for him grew and grew. Eventually, I started reading his books, like Silent Bob Speaks. I thought that was one of the funniest books I've ever read. Other books he's done, My Boring Ass Life. I mean, there's a part in My Boring Ass Life where it talks all about the relationship he's had with Jason Mewes, his close friend Jay, and about how like he's had to deal with his drug addiction since they were young. So that was a fantastic read. So he wasn't just funny; he was just a great writer. And stemming from my love for Chasing Amy, and I know he has heart and he's got experience, and he's just a talent. I mean, I think he's a talented filmmaker. He's made some fucking stinkers. I remember seeing Clerks 2, and I was like underage. Like, I think I was like 15, and I even brought a young kid. I was babysitting. I'm like, well, this is stupid. Let's go out. And he's like, let's go see a movie. I'm like, great, let's go see Clerks 2. Like 12, like 11, maybe like 9 to 10-year-old kid. Totally inappropriate to see Clerks 2, but I just sort of did what my mom did and took him to see. I mean, he thought it was funny, but he also was like, what's this mean? Why is he fucking that donkey? And I'm just like, I don't know. I didn't see this fucking movie yet. So just over the years, and I was a fan of Jersey Girl. I didn't think Jersey Girl was that bad. I still enjoyed it. I just rewatched it a month ago. And then, he made Zack and Mary Make a Porno. I thought it was fine. I enjoyed it. I understand what he was trying to do when it came to, like, he tried to make a Judd Apatow movie, essentially. I didn't care. To me, it was a Kevin Smith film. I thought it was brilliant. And then he sort of took a step back on his career a little bit, started focusing on podcasts. And I had never listened to a podcast ever. It took me a long time to listen to one. The closest I ever did was I read the book format of a lot of the Smodcast excerpts that they had basically compiled into text and just released a book from him and Scott Mosier just talking and joking and having fun. So that was the closest I ever got to listening to a podcast. And then Kevin sort of stopped directing. He made Red State, which I fucking thought was brilliant. Then he made Tusk, which I thought was really fucked up and kooky. And it's just an interesting way of him going through this weird metamorphosis in his career, and I thought it was brilliant. I did go with my friend Joe to see Tusk, and Joe hated it. Joe said, "We spent $10 on that worthless piece of shit." And I was like, "You didn't fucking like that movie? That movie was so fucked up. It was awesome. Like, it was crazy. It wasn't a great film, but it was like a guy gets turned into a fucking walrus. That is batshit nuts. I want to see that movie. And Johnny Depp's in it. It's fucking crazy." And then around that time, Kevin Smith started doing live shows, but he was putting them on his YouTube channel, and he had done Smodcast, he had done all these podcasts and Fat Man on Batman, but then he did a Fat Man on Batman episode, and it was about Mark Hamill. And I'm a big fan of Mark Hamill, so I listened to that. It was on YouTube. I didn't have SoundCloud or Rhapsody or any music podcast playing thing. I just was on YouTube all the time, kind of like now. So I listened to that Mark Hamill thing. It's a two-part. It's one of the most fascinating fucking things ever, because it's all about Mark Hamill's life and all about him going less on Star Wars, but more about him starting out his career, and then him getting the role of the Joker on the Batman animated series, and just how his method of what he did with the Joker. And Mark Hamill is one of the ultimate, and I don't say this disparagingly, one of the ultimate Hollywood know-it-alls. He's got an encyclopedic mind. He knows everything about who was in what, and he can do impressions of them, and I mean, it's just a fascinating listen. So I gradually started listening to other episodes of Fat Man on Batman. And then, because YouTube just did an automatic shuffle, it put on this show, Hollywood Babble. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And it was a later show, and it was like I had been thrust into a movie halfway through, not knowing what was going on, but it was entertaining. And Kevin's co-host is Ralph Garman. Ralph Garman, and I knew nothing about Ralph. I heard nothing about it. The first little sort of hint that I got of what this episode was about, is it had been Ben Affleck had just been announced as Batman, and Kevin, of course, is a huge fan of Ben Affleck. I'm a fan of Ben Affleck, so I was on Kevin's side. And this guy Ralph Garman was like, "No, fucking, I'm not a fan of this at all." And he did an Adam West impression. And I was like, this guy's funny, but I don't agree with him, but he's really funny, he's really talented, he does spot-on impressions. So, one thing led to another, and I started listening to more Babylon. And then it became sort of an obsession in a weird way. I started developing severe anxiety, and I had been battling depression my whole life, so the anxiety was a new thing. It just sort of stemmed out of nowhere, and I had trouble sleeping. I already have insomnia, so it was really bad. I was having a hard time getting to sleep some nights. And so I would gradually play, I'd keep my phone plugged in, and I'd just run YouTube videos of Hollywood Babylon. I'd make my own playlist of 10 to 15 videos, and they're all about, an hour and a half at a time. So, I mean, it would help me fall asleep. And then I would wake up to it, and it was just a nice, relaxing way of drifting off and waking up. It got a couple ex-girlfriends pretty pissed off, in the past, I dated a girl who just took up the entire bed. She would lay spread eagle, and she was a snorer, and I'd have trouble sleeping, so I'd just go out to the living room and just kind of gradually fall asleep to fucking Ralph and Garman and Kevin Smith. Like, it was just bizarre. And, like, I would wake up to her, like, getting ready for work, and, like, Ralph and Kevin are still talking and joking, and they would do these podcasts that are live shows. So they would record a podcast, but they would do it on a stage. So there's an audience, you don't see anything, blah, blah, blah. And then Kevin Smith started airing live shows, meaning films where you could watch the show of Fat Man on Batman. He started working with now his co-host, Mark Bernardin. So I started watching Fat Man on Batman, those live show, those actual film shows, religiously, and listening to Holy Babble. So I was like, there honestly is very few, since the past 3 years, there's been very few days where I don't fall asleep to Kevin Smith or Ralph Garman or Mark Bernard. It's really kind of unhealthy, but it helped me get to sleep. It helped me with my anxiety. I went through a really bad relationship previously, and it was stressing me out. It was a long distance relationship. I was traveling to her all the time, and I'm not going to go into the specifics of the relationship, but it was honestly, Ralph and Kevin helped me get through a lot of that shit. So much so I was taking the bus to her and back all the time, and I got to the point where I was able to figure out how to download it and put it on my phone and have it on my phone and just listen on my iPhones and fall asleep on the bus because I was busing to LA. So it's like an 8-hour bus ride. I just fall asleep and wake up and I'm there. So I'd always wanted to go, and I had even told the girl I was seeing who lives in LA, I want to go to this live show. And then I realized that she would hate it. She would not have been a fan. But I have a friend who lives in LA, and I was trying to get him, like, next time I'm out here, we should go. Then the girl in LA and I broke up, and I was like, I don't want to go to LA ever again. I need a fucking break. I need at least a year to never go to LA. So I sort of was like, I'm sacrificing it. But I was aware that Kevin and Ralph would tour. But, I mean, I live really close to San Francisco, and I assumed they would come here. Strangely enough, the only place they would ever go out to Northern California was San Jose. So I was like, I don't really want to drive to San Jose by myself. I don't want to go to a show by myself. My friend Joe's out in LA. I was trying to like tell it to my friend Michael, trying to get him involved and trying to play a couple clips to him. He seemed kind of interested, but not really. So it would have been something for me to go to it if he were to come with me. And then I got my mother's boyfriend, Mike Maxwell, into it because I was like, you gotta listen to this fucking thing. And I showed him some clips. There was a clip called The Creepy Clown Time where Ralph would do a impression of a homicidal clown putting on makeup, and Kevin freaked out. Like, Kevin's really afraid of clowns and everything, and Ralph would just like stare at him and go doo 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 doo, like really creepy. And then in order to soften the blow, he would start doing impressions of celebrities because he's an impersonator. So that would make it funny. So he did like a Bill Cosby, he did like a Pacino, he did like a Adam West. And Mike Maxwell, my mom's boyfriend, who I call my stepfather, was a fan of Adam West. And I was like, you got to watch this spot on Adam West. Like, do, 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 like just, and he thought it was the funniest thing he's ever seen. Like, and finally, like, Maxwell has been such an important part of my life. He's another father figure. I've learned so much from him. He's been very supportive. And he's introduced things to my life, and we bond in a very natural way. There was never an incident where I was like, you're not my real father, that kind of thing. I fully embraced him. I was a part of my family. And so now I had an opportunity to introduce something to him, so that I know he'd like. And so, little by little, I was showing him a little bit of Hollywood Babylon, and then eventually he was coming to me. When Adam West died, Ralph Garman was a close friend of Adam West. So during a show of Babylon, Ralph delivered basically a eulogy and was sobbing uncontrollably and trying to keep it together, and Kevin's consoling him, and he's doing, he's just talking for 30 or 40 minutes about Adam West, and he's holding back tears the entire time. And so Maxwell shows that to me, and I was like, I just heard it. And I was like, how the fuck did you? He's like, oh, dude, I saw Ralph Garman, blah, blah, blah. And he plays that for me. So it was nice to get him to come back. I found out that, I'm sorry for the long introduction, but I have to talk about it like this. Found out they were coming to San Jose. And I just mentioned it to my mother in passing. I'm like, Kevin Smith's coming out to San Jose. And my mom became obsessed with, like, I was like, it'd be really nice to see them, but I'm not going to go to San Jose. And my mom was like, no, you are going. Like, I took you to see Jay and Silent Bob years ago. I know Kevin Smith's one of your heroes. I'm making this happen. Like, and she said, talk to Maxwell, ask me if he wants to go. I texted Maxwell, I was like, do you want to go to Hollywood Bowl? He's like, yes. So, he bought tickets. For those who are interested, it's $35 a piece, so $70. I think after tax it was like 72, $73. And he picked, and so we were kind of pumped. I had been sick, as you guys know, for the past, I'm still battling a cold, so my nose is just leaking. Sorry, that was gross. I don't have any tissues near me. Sorry. I was sick, and I had missed a lot of work, and I was kind of, like, upset that I was missing all this work. I'm working tomorrow for a full day, but it got to the point where, like, my manager was like, just stay home. Just stay home, yesterday. He's like, stay home, make sure you're healthy, don't come in. When you're ready to come in, come in. So I'm working tomorrow. So Maxwell picks me up today. He picks me up early, around 4 o'clock. The show's not even until 9 o'clock. So we're like, we got some hours to kill. We get to San Jose, and I'm sort of running through, telling him giving him sort of the official, like, what I think they're going to do in their bits, because I sort of have a formula. So they do this thing called shoutouts, which is basically me, the viewer, the fan, writes to them. They have an email on their website. It's smodcast.com or whatever the fuck it is. Or you can find it by looking up Hollywood Babylon. Writing to them, and you can say, you can request things like, hey, I'm going to be at the show. Can you do an impression of David Bowie? Can you do an impression of, can you do the Creepy Clown Time, but with, like Adam West or whatever the fuck. So, I know I'm going all over the fucking place, but bear with me. This is a very personal video. This is not about a movie. It's just about a show I love, and the night I fucking had. This is one of the best nights of my life. Kevin Smith made a movie called Tusk, which I told you guys about a little earlier. He also made a spin-off called Yoga Hosers. It's sort of part of his Canadian horror film trilogy. And I say this as a fan of Kevin Smith, it is not a great film. It's very kind of campy. It's very kiddie. There's nothing wrong with, like, the acting. And you really have to kind of be like, I'm going into a really weird film. That's fine. But it's very PG-13. It's very, very basic language. Johnny Depp shows up. It's Johnny Depp's daughter and Kevin Smith's daughter, and they're best friends in real life, so they're playing these Canadian clerks. Johnny Depp's in it, playing the same character he does in Tusk, a Canadian Quebecian detective. And it deals with all sorts of crazy shit, like bratwurst Nazis, like Bratzies, little fucking Nazi henchmen about yay tall, made of bratwurst, and they're played by Kevin Smith, and he's going, "Nein, nein," in a very high-pitched, Bavarian German accent. And he's just like, Wiener Schnitzel, wunderbar, like, just really ridiculous plot. And Ralph Garman shows up at the end, and he delivers. I think he has the best part in the movie. He's my favorite part of the movie. He just does all of his dialogue is in the form of impressions. So it's just basically, okay, Ralph, I'm going to make you do impressions. So I watched this with Maxwell, and Maxwell was like, this was stupid, but Ralph Garman had the best scene. Like, you kind of have to go into it knowing it's going to be stupid, blah, blah, blah. So for a shout out, I wrote the same email to 2 separate email addresses that they offered. I want to make sure that they got this fucking thing. So I wrote basically, Dear Kevin and Ralph, I'm a big fan of Kevin and Ralph. I'm a big fan of you guys. since the beginning. Especially Kevin, since my mother took. I talked about what I just talked about, like me going to Jay and Silent Bob Strike back when I was 10, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I work at a video store, which is really significant because I'm basically a combination of Dante and Randall. And I knew Kevin would appreciate that because that's what Clerks is about. It's about a guy working at a convenience store next to a video store. Now, like I've talked about how I work at a video store. There is a video store still out there, and I work at it. If I'm lucky enough, maybe, I mean, hopefully my boss will be like, please come back. We're not going to fire you if you continue to be sick. I think I'm okay, but I may have to eat crow. I'm working tomorrow for a full shift because I'm working a double essentially, because it's my penance, which I don't mind. I need the money anyway. So I wrote to them and I was like, I'm working at a video store. One of the perks I have of working at a video store is I get movies. I can buy movies that we can sell at half price. We had the movie Yoga Hosers. We had one copy. No one rented it except me. I rented it once, and then no one else rented it. So I asked my boss, I'm like, can I just buy this? No one's going to rent it. And eventually when you figure out it's not going to make a profit, you're going to put it on the sales rack anyway. So can I just buy this? Yeah, sure. So I got a discount. I paid $2.73 because half off after tax, $2.50, $2.73. So that was it. So I said that I'm the one person who bought your DVD. I'm really happy, and I'd love to come out there and meet you both and get you both to sign it. The funny thing is, I have Kevin Smith's whole filmography. I have him on VHS, no less. I have Tuscan, Yoga Hosers on DVD, but everything else, Clerks, Dogma, all that shit on VHS. They're all packed up. So I would have loved to have had all these movies signed by them. I had fantasies of going to Jersey at some point, going to Comic Book Man and be like, hey, can you guys sign these movies? You're all worked on the films. I'm really a big fan. Really just like my fantasies were never like, I'm going to go to Hollywood. I'm going to make a name for myself. I'm going to be a filmmaker. It was just like, if I'm ever going to go to Jersey, I want to fucking meet Kevin Smith and have him sign a movie that I thought was okay. But so the point is, this is the only movie I had available within reaching distance. I would have had to go to my mother and been like, I need you to go through these boxes and find this movie, which would have pissed her off. So I happen to have Yoga Hosers with me. So, and I have it in my hand. But I'm showing you something specifically. So I sent my email. I said it's two separate things. I want to make sure they fucking got it. So Maxwell and I get to the show. We get to San Jose early. We're really early. And then we find out Kevin Smith is going to do an earlier show before Hollywood Babylon just by himself. Basically one of his Q&As. That's really what he does. Is it's not so much stand-up. It's just like the impression is he's going to do question and answer. But the joke is that he talks so much. He talks more than me. That like basically one or two questions get answered over the course of 2 or 3 hours. Like watch his movies Evening with Kevin Smith 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the fuck they are, and you can watch that he really doesn't answer that many questions. I think there was one DVD where he answered one question for the entire show. He just kept going on and on. This story became another story, which referenced this story, which became that story, and then just kept going on and on and on. Oh, we're out of time. Thanks for... So the answer to your one question is no. Blah, blah, blah. So I knew that was going to be like that. But my mother heard about that and said, no, if you guys are early enough, go to this show. I didn't really want to ask too much of Maxwell. I didn't want to... You know, he was already treating me, and he was driving, he was paying for gas, he bought me lunch, all this shit. I didn't want to ask. And he said, no, fuck it, we're here. Let's go see him early. So I'm like on the verge of crying. I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to see Kevin Smith before Kevin Smith. Like, this is crazy. And he shelled out another $70. We got our tickets for the first show, and then we went and got something to eat. He bought me fucking dinner, and then we went back, and then we went to the first show, and sure enough, it was just him. It was just him by himself. One guy, he went through a whole intro, kept talking, and he's like, okay, we're going to ask questions. I'm like, it's been fucking 45 minutes. Now I'm going to ask questions? Jesus Christ. And I told my mother, I'm like, I don't know about the Q&A thing, because I know his method. He's going to answer one question over the course of 3 hours. I'll never have a chance to ask a question. My mother wanted me to ask a question like, can I work for you? Can you take me under your wing? Can I be your new little assistant? can I be in your movies? That type of shit. Like my mother's adorable. She like said, I want ask him if he's got like an acting camp. And I'm like, Mom? What are you talking about? Like, I'd have to move to L.A. and he'd have to like take care of me. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it doesn't work like that. It's like, no, I want you to work with. I was like, I want to work with Kevin Smith too, but that means I'd have to move to L.A. Like, what are you talking about, Nancy? So he goes through his whole thing. He answers one question. He's like, any other questions before I can talk again? And I just raised my hand. I was like, fuck it, I have nothing to lose. And what it was, he had workers, his guys, his crew, walk around handing mics to people. So I raised my hand. There was a guy next to me, and he gave me the mic. So this is my moment. So all of a sudden I'm shaking, and my voice is cracking, and I'm sweating, and I'm nervous, and I'm on the balcony. I'm looking down at him. He can't really see me. He's like, where are you? Where? I'm like, I'm right here. He's like, I know you're up there, but the light's facing me. I can't see you. And I'm like, oh, I'm over here. And I'm like sort of moving around. He's like, oh, yeah, you. How can I help you? And I was like, hi, Kevin. My name is Rico. And I almost lost it. He's like, hello, Rico. Nice to meet you. Everyone, give it up for my friend Rico. And everyone started applauding me. And I'm looking at Maxwell. Maxwell's looking at me. And I'm like, oh, my fuck. I'm going to shit my pants. I'm so... I mean, I never fan geek out. But, like, I was really just... Kevin, my voice is cracking. I'm like, I work at the only basic video store around in the country, and one of the perks is I get movies half off that I can buy and take home. I think I'm the only person who's ever bought yoga hoses. I think I'm the one person who bought that copy. The audience thought that was really funny and laughed. And he said, well, I have the first copy, you have the second copy. I'm like, yeah, but I gave you a profit. And the audience thought that was funny as well. He's like, how much was it? I'm like, $250. He's like, oh, shit. Well, anyways, what's your question, Rico? How can I help you? And he said my name again. I'm like, oh, my fuck, he said my name. I mean, the reason why I do these videos is because of Kevin Smith. Like, he inspired me to just start talking and do this shit. I'm sorry, I'm actually crying. So I said, I happen to have the DVD with me. And the audience, I held it up, and he just starts chuckling and laughing. And I was like, yeah? I'm like, yeah, will you and Ralph sign it? He's like, absolutely, I'd love to sign that. It may not be right now, but I have another show. I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to be at the next show, too. He's like, perfect. I'm going to have you hand it to one of the guy who gave you the mic. We'll get that signed, and then I'll see you at the next show. Great, thank you, Kevin Smith, and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, isn't it nice to have a long journey? And so I'm like, yeah, it took 20 years and yoga hose. He's like, and now it's over. I'm like, that's right. He's like, so you can sit back down. I'm like, okay. Sat back down, and the audience clapped for me, and I clapped for him. I'm like clapping for me and all excited. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck has happened. Looking at Maxwell, like drenched in sweat. I'm just like, I don't know what happened. What did I say? And he's like, you're fine, don't worry. And then I look behind me, and there's a guy who was sitting. He's like, I handle all his shit. I'll take it. Like, I'll get him to sign it. And I'm like, okay. And I just hand it to him, just like, here you go, stranger. I don't know who you are. I'll just take your word that you'll just take the fucking thing I'm going to have signed. So he runs off. He holds it, and then he fucks off. And then the show ends. Maxwell and I immediately get up, run down to the outside of the building where we had already gotten our tickets for the second show, the Hollywood Babble show. But there's two separate lines. There's people that are just bought the tickets, there's people who already bought the tickets and holding. So we're the priority line. So we immediately jump in the line, and we are the first. So we're at the fucking gate. And we're just standing there and talking, and we're smoking, and we're just like, oh my god, that was so funny, and remember when he said this joke, and oh my god, there's a lot, big fucking line forming behind me and Maxwell. And that's when I start talking about, like, man, it'd be great if they sign this, and maybe, maybe you'll meet Kevin, and, and I was like, maybe, what if I got him to sign on my arm, and we go get me tattooed, like his signature tonight, because he's done that before. And Max was like, I think that's a fucking awesome idea. And I was like, you'd have to pay for it. He's like, I know, I'll pay for it. Well, I don't give a shit. If we can get Kevin Smith's signature on your arm order, I'm all for it. So we're waiting in line. I look, and the guy I gave the DVD to came to me. He's like, here you go. And I'm like, oh. And I take it. I look at it. And the first thing I do is I look at the bottom. If you look at the bottom, I was like, huh. That doesn't look like a K. I'm like, oh my God. That's Ralph. Ralph fucking got my emails, realized what this was. He's like, oh, that's that fucking Rico kid who's been fucking asking about me signing this shit. So he signed it. And I'm like, well, that's awesome, Ralph. And I looked at the top. I don't know if you guys can see it. It says, I heart you, Kevin Smith. This is the worst movie he's made, but now it's the most precious thing that I'll have in my fucking collection. So, I was hyperventilating, and I'm looking at this, and Maxwell kept looking, and I'm like, oh my God, this is fucking insane. And the cool thing that they did was, I thought they just scribbled on it, but what they did was, they flattened it out, pulled out the actual label, and signed it on the thing. So now this is signature, this is real signature, and they did it under the plastics, and they shoved it back inside. So they're basically not signing over plastic sheet. Really fucking nice of them that they went above and beyond, essentially. I was blown away by, I mean, yeah, you know, their method is, we gotta make the fans happy, blah, 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 but I was on the verge of crying, and I'm hugging Maxwell. I'm like, Maxwell, you don't know what you did. You made this fucking night super special. I was like, I feel like a princess on an amazing date, but I can tell you're not getting lucky tonight. Like, I love you. And Maxwell, not to be gross about it, but he spent a lot of money tonight. Not to mention gas and food, but I mean, you know, I will forever be grateful to him, and this is a night I'll always remember. So then we go into the second show. Now, because we're first in line, we have the best fucking seats in the entire house. We are literally at the table at the stage. We are so close to them that when they come on stage and sit down at their chairs and they have a table, they're 10 to 12 feet away from us. Like, if they had spilled their drinks and it flowed down the table and then flowed towards us, it would have spilled on us. That's how close we were. I had my hand on the stage. We were at the floor. We were at the front row seats. If we were any closer, we would have been next to them. So we're sitting there. I'm just in awe. I'm just staring wide-eyed at Ralph and Kevin, and they're going through the bits, and I know the bits. I'm mouthing the bits, and I'm like, I know this shit. I know this jingle. And I'm looking at and I could see how Kevin Smith has just baked this shit. And I was trying to capture his eye, and I did something so geeky. I had my phone, and I had I had a bag with like some stuff in it for hold this. I sort of wedged it up so I would hold this up so they can look down and see, oh, that's the kid that we signed that shit. I wanted them to be like, I mean, I was getting greedy. Admittedly, I was, you know, they signed it. I talked to Kevin Smith, and they had signed it, and I'm sitting right in front of them. I was so grateful for everything. I was like, I was still thinking maybe I'll get them to ink me or sign my arm, and I'll get inked. But I'm trying to like get more attention about me because I want it to be immortalized on the podcast. So they sign it. So I want them to look at it and be like, oh, that's the Rico kid. Hey, Rico, this guy sent me 2 fucking emails, blah, blah, blah. And, oh, he went to another show just to make sure that he talked to you. This guy's a fan. They didn't do that. They didn't look down. And I noticed something about Kevin is that I think he was so stoned that he actually never looked at the audience. He just very much was looking at Ralph the whole time and kind of looking up, but never made eye contact. His eyes never wavered in my direction, with the exception of occasionally he would take his phone out and record Ralph doing something and sort of pan the phone towards the audience and get our reactions. And I'm doing this, so if there's anything online, I'm doing this. Like, right there. Like, I'm the first fucking thing you see. Then, towards the end of the show, something really funny happened. this show, normally you're not supposed to, like, heckle and call out shit and say things, but occasionally they kind of encourage. Like, they're trying to remember how to pronounce Colin Trevorrow, because they were talking about Trevorrow being fired from episode 9. And people were like, Trevorrow, and I kind of yelled out, Trevorrow, I'm right there. And also, I mentioned this in a really long video a long time ago, Trevorrow used to work at the video store that I work at now. So I was like, I gotta kind of be loyal. I'm like, Trevorrow! And then people kept talking throughout the whole thing and throwing in jokes for them. And then there's this one guy, so it's me, Maxwell, this woman sitting next to her, Maxwell, her boyfriend, and then another guy, and then his girlfriend. So we're all lined up next to each other, sitting at our tables. So the guy all the way at the end, so I'm here, he's here, calls out something and just keeps talking. So the guy sitting next to Maxwell, he snaps and he's like, will you shut the fuck up? They're fucking comedians. Let them fucking talk. Just shut your fucking mouth. And they're in the front row with us. So Kevin and Ralph are like, oh, whoa. Okay. I guess there's a fight about to break out. And that was like, I'm like looking at Max, I'm like, we're about to see a fucking fight. This is the first time a fight's ever broken out at Hollywood Babylon. We're right next to them. This is the most insane fucking night I've ever had. And the only thing that the other guy, the one who was heckling, said was like, he looked at the guy who yelled at him, he's like, this motherfucker, and then just stared at the back of his head. Because the other guy was like, fuck you, and then turned away and looked at him like, continue. And just kept like, he's like, oh, let's go. And then the other guy was just staring at the back of his head, just like seething like, I want to fucking kill this fuck. So I'm like half expecting a fight to break out. When the show ended, I was like, there's going to be a fight out front in like 30 seconds. We got out front, no fight. Everyone was like leaving. I was sort of hanging around to see if Ralph or Kevin would come out. They did not. They were exhausted because Kevin went on for the first show for like an hour longer than he should have. So the first thing Ralph said when he and Kevin got on stage was like, really sorry for the delay. The guy who was on stage before us was a fucking asshole, just taking up all our fucking time, really disregarding. Kevin's chuckling, like, oh yeah, I didn't mean to. I mean, honestly, that was it. Then I was just so pumped up, and I'm like, just dripping gossip about Kevin Smith and what I know, and I'm a big fan, to Max on the ride home. The entire hour-long drive, I'm just like, and Kevin Smith said this, and then he made that movie, and then Bruce Willis was an asshole, and blah blah blah, and yoga hosers, and cop out, and periodically I'm like, Maxwell, you're fucking amazing, I fucking love you, you did the best thing for me, this is my favorite night, blah blah blah. And then he's like, yeah man, I'm happy, I would never have done it with anybody but you, and I'm like about to cry, and honestly, just an amazing night, man. I'm so happy. If for some reason Ralph and Kevin see this, I want to thank you so much. You guys have no idea how much your podcast and how much your humor has meant to me. It has made me do what I do. I mean, I don't care if no one finds me funny. I don't care if it's edited poorly or not at all. I don't care. This helps me get through the night. It's my own form of therapy, and I would never have done it if it wasn't for Kevin Smith and Ralph Garman. So, thank you guys so much, and thank you for indulging me on this. This is just a personal rant. I could not bottle this up. I had the time of my life, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. Please go to Hollywood Babylon, watch their shows, watch Fat Man on Batman. Just please, go show them some love, the same amount of love they showed me. Keep it real, guys. Love you all to death. Bye bye.